What if I told you the Nintendo Switch might just be the ultimate RPG machine? Seriously, whether you're into tactical brain burners, epic monster slaying, or cozy adventures you'll lose weekends to, there's something here for every kind of player. Today we're diving into some of the best RPG experiences you can play right now. Some are modern classics, others are surprise hidden gems, and a few might already be responsible for your sleep schedule falling apart. Let's jump in. First up, one of the most stylish RPGs ever made. Persona 5 Royal isn't just about battling shadows in surreal dungeons, it's about living that double life. High school classes and hanging out with friends by day, Phantom Thief Mastermind by night. The Switch version is silky smooth, and it's wild how good this looks on a handheld. Between the slick combat system, the killer jazz soundtrack, and the fact that you'll spend way too long debating which confidant to level up, this is the RPG that'll eat your hours like candy. And let's be real, you'll probably start out promising yourself, I'll only do one in-game day tonight. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, I know some of you are already thinking, is Zelda really an RPG? And to that I say, does it matter when it's this good? Breath of the Wild broke open world design wide open. Climb anything, cook everything, and yes, probably blow yourself up with your own bomb arrows more than once. What makes it feel RPG-like is the freedom to craft your story. No two players tackle the world the same way. Some of us beeline straight to Ganon, others spend 20 hours trying to shield surf down Death Mountain. The sheer sandbox creativity here, the moments of discovery, that's RPG energy through and through. Honestly, this game set the gold standard for open worlds, and we're still chasing it. Rolling dice with friends, but in your pocket. That's the vibe of the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Editions on Switch. These are legendary PC RPGs, retooled for a handheld. They're pure Dungeons and Dragons at heart. Pause and play combat, branching dialogues, and those unpredictable dice rolls that can make or break a battle. The Enhanced Edition adds all the expansions plus quality of life tweaks like touch controls. It's not the flashiest RPG on the system, but if you want deep, old-school storytelling with tactical combat that still holds up decades later, these are a time machine to the golden age of CRPGs. Just don't blame me when you lose 3 hours debating which spells to prep before a dungeon crawl. Now here's a tactical masterpiece that finally made its way to Switch. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicle is the definitive version of a game that basically set the bar for grid-based strategy RPGs. It's all here. The legendary job system that lets you mix and match roles like ninja, time mage, and dragoon. A political story full of betrayals, royal drama, and shocking twists. And battles that force you to think 3 moves ahead. The Switch release cleans up the visuals, smooths out the performance, and makes this cult classic more approachable than ever. And honestly, it still feels fresh, like chess but with chocobos and holy knights.
Leave that to me.
Sometimes you just need something a little quirkier. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is back with a shiny new Switch remaster, and it's just as charming as it was on GameCube. This isn't your usual dark and gritty RPG. It's paper-thin Mario with pun-filled writing, clever turn-based combat, and a stage show battle system where timing your button presses makes moves land harder. And the remaster? Gorgeous! It smooths out the visuals but keeps that crafty pop-up book vibe intact. Plus, the jokes still land. It's one of the funniest RPGs you can play. Okay, now we're going back in time, way back. Pokemon Legends Arceus shook up the Pokemon formula in the best way. Instead of the classic gym badge crawl, you're exploring an untamed Hisui region, sneaking up on wild Pokemon, throwing Pokeballs in real time, and piecing together early Pokédex entries. It's part action RPG, part creature collecting adventure, and for the first time, catching them all actually feels wild and unpredictable. The open areas aren't as massive as some newer open world games, but the sense of discovery memory is there, especially when you find an alpha Pokémon 3 times your size staring you down. It's Pokémon, but with a sense of danger and exploration we'd been missing for years. Let's slow down and talk about world building done right. Trails in the Sky is one of those JRPGs that doesn't just throw you into random dungeons. It builds a living, breathing continent full of politics, airships, and lovable side characters. You're following Estelle and Joshua Bright, siblings on a journey to become bracers. You know, those adventurer/peacekeeping types. But the twist, combat now isn't purely turn-based. The remake blends real-time and turn-based combat. You'll see dynamic transitions, interruptible S-breaks, and a system that keeps the pace engaging without losing tactical depth. It's not the flashiest game here, but if you love getting lost in dialogue and slow burn plotting that eventually pays off big, this one's magic.
It's not my style to just sit and wait.
If you missed the golden age of Final Fantasy, Bravely Default 2 is basically a love letter to that era, but with modern quality of life. You've got the job system, change classes on the fly, brave and default mechanics for banking or spending turns, and gorgeous painterly worlds. It's tough but fair, full of boss fights that reward clever planning. And that soundtrack? Pure JRPG comfort food. Soaring strings one moment, rock guitar the next. It might not reinvent the genre, but it nails that classic turn-based grind in the best way, while letting you fast-forward battles when you're farming XP.
However you choose.
Now for something new and a little wild. Unicorn Overlord is the latest from Vanillaware, the studio behind Odin Sphere and 13 Sentinels, and it's gorgeous. Imagine hand-painted characters marching across a massive tactical map, blending real-time movement with strategic automated battles. You recruit a huge army of colorful characters, build units, capture cities, and slowly reclaim a war-torn continent. It feels like a mashup of Fire Emblem and Ogre Battle, but with Vanillaware's signature art that looks like a storybook come to life. And yes, the name sounds like a heavy metal band you'd see at a tiny bar, but the game itself is a surprisingly deep, addicting strategy RPG.
Drakkenhold, we shall never fail.
Did you really think we'd let...
Ever wanted an RPG where combat isn't about swords or spells, but about your own messed up brain? Disco Elysium: The Final Cut is exactly that. A detective story where your inner thoughts argue with you, your skills talk back, and every decision feels like it could spiral out of control. You play an amnesiac cop waking up after a legendary bender, tasked with solving a murder in a crumbling city. But the real game is in the dialogue trees. They're dense, hilarious, and sometimes heartbreaking. You might charm someone with empathy, or fail a roll and end up screaming about communism. On Switch, it runs great in handheld, and the Final Cut adds full voice acting, which makes your skills, like drama or Inland Empire, even more unhinged and lovable. Now for sheer epic scale. The Xenoblade Chronicles series is practically the definition of huge JRPG worlds. The first game, Definitive Edition, kicks things off with Shulk and his iconic Monado blade across the bodies of literal titans. Xenoblade 2 adds a more anime vibe with blades and drivers, while Xenoblade 3 ties it all together with an emotional, war-torn road trip. What's special? Massive, seamless open fields, MMO-style combat with party combos, and stories that somehow go from intimate character beats to giant philosophical swings about life, death, and gods. And honestly, few series make you stop mid-quest just to stare at the horizon. These games have some of the most jaw-dropping vistas on the Switch.
Got it.
Next is pure stylish existential melancholy, Nier Automata. You're 2B, an android soldier in a ruined Earth fighting machine lifeforms. But the story goes way deeper than it first seems. It's part slashy hack and slash, part bullet hell, part RPG with leveling and gear, and every ending, there are many, reframes the story in mind-bending ways. The Switch version runs surprisingly well considering how silky the combat is, and it includes all the extra DLC costumes and challenges. If you love RPGs that aren't afraid to get philosophical and occasionally punch you right in the feelings, this one's unforgettable. Few RPGs pull you in quite like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. You're Geralt of Rivia, monster hunter, reluctant hero, and professional guy who's tired of your drama, wandering a gritty living world full of moral gray choices. The Switch Complete Edition packs in all the expansions, including the incredible Blood and Wine, which honestly feels like a whole extra game. Sure, the visuals take a little hit on handheld, but having this sprawling, choice-heavy RPG in your backpack is a small miracle. And the side quests? Some are better than entire stories in other games. One minute you're slaying a werewolf, the next you're making heartbreaking decisions about love and loyalty. Geralt's life is messy, and that's what makes it great.
Must find her, Geralt. Before the Wild Hunt does.
If you loved Final Fantasy Tactics earlier but want something fresh, Triangle Strategy is Square Enix's modern spin on political, choice-driven tactical RPGs. You control Serenoa, a young lord caught in a three-nation struggle, and every decision you make, from who to ally with to whether to go to war, affects the story. The coolest part? The scales of conviction, where your party members actually debate and vote on decisions. You can sway them with info or persuasion, which feels so much more alive than just picking a dialogue option. The tactical battles are deep, with terrain, elevation, and elemental tricks to master. It's slow-paced at times, but if you want strategy plus serious political intrigue, this is gold.
Survival for the future.
The first Octopath Traveler made waves with its HD 2D look, but Octopath Traveler 2 just nails the formula. 8 new heroes, each with their own story, from an exiled prince to a thief chasing revenge. And you can mix and match their jobs for wild combat combos. It's still turn-based, but with the break and boost system that makes timing your hits feel so satisfying. And the soundtrack? Unreal. Sweeping and emotional 1 minute, jazzy and playful the next. The big upgrade here is the world actually feels more connected, and characters interact more. Plus, it's just gorgeous. That mix of pixel art and dramatic lighting never gets old.
Silence, you abominable reptile!
Here's a blast from the PS1 era that feels brand new again. Star Ocean: The Second Story R is a full remake of the classic action JRPG, with beautiful new 2.5D visuals that mix pixel characters and painterly backgrounds. You pick between two leads, Claude, a spacefaring cadet, or Rena, a mysterious girl from a fantasy world, and the story shifts depending on who you choose. Combat is real-time, flashy, and lets you string skills together for wild combos. It also has this charming private action system, where you bond with party members, unlock special scenes, and shape who might end up together at the end. It's basically sci-fi meets fantasy, with a big dose of nostalgic heart.
Mr. Kenny, once we cross this bridge, we'll be in Arlia.
Sometimes you just want a throwback that feels modern. Sea of Stars is a love letter to classic 16-bit RPGs like Chrono Trigger, but with gorgeous modern lighting, hand-painted worlds, and snappy turn-based combat. You play as two children of the solstice, wielding sun and moon powers to take down cosmic baddies. The fights are active. Time your button presses to hit harder or block, and the exploration is full of puzzles, swimming, climbing, and secrets. It's cozy, funny, and surprisingly heartfelt, and the soundtrack? Absolute chef's kiss, including a few tracks by Yasunori Mitsuda, the legend behind Chrono Trigger's music. Let's shake things up with some action RPG chaos. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is an open-world fantasy game where the combat is so good it almost feels like a single-player Monster Hunter mixed with Skyrim. You can literally climb giant monsters like a medieval Shadow of the Colossus, hack at their weak spots, and watch wild physics take over. The pawn system lets you create your own AI companion and borrow others from online, which is still one of the coolest ideas in RPGs. It's a bit rough around the edges, but if you want an RPG that feels free and lets you improvise in fights, this is a cult classic worth trying. Okay, let's talk Final Fantasy Overload. The Switch is basically a time machine for this series. From the pixel remasters of Final Fantasy 1 through 6 to 7, 8, 9, 10/10-2 HD remaster, and even 12, the Zodiac Age. Each one scratches a different itch. 1 through 6 give you pure retro charm, now with lovely redrawn sprites. 7 is the iconic PS1 adventure with Cloud and Sephiroth. 8 goes full angsty teen love story with junction mechanics. 9 is warm fairy tale nostalgia, and 10/10-2 bring voice acting and sphere grid customization. 12, it's a political drama with MMO-style combat that still feels ahead of its time. Basically, no matter what kind of JRPG fan you are, there's a Final Fantasy on Switch waiting to steal your evenings. Want something really different? Live Alive is an old-school JRPG that never made it west until this HD 2D remake, and it's brilliant. You play 7 completely different stories across time periods: a ninja in feudal Japan, a cowboy in the Wild West, a near-future robot story, even a caveman who literally grunts instead of talking. Each chapter has its own twist, like stealth in Japan, wrestling moves in the modern day, or a silent film vibe for the prehistoric era. Then, just when you think it's all disconnected, the game ties everything together in a mind-blowing finale. It's creative, stylish, and perfect for anyone who loves RPGs that take risks.
Grant me courage!
So it's not over, huh?
Time to embrace the pain. Dark Souls Remastered on Switch is the full, brutal action RPG experience, but now portable. Yes, you can die to Ornstein and Smo on a bus. It's all about deliberate combat, cryptic world building, and that unbeatable feeling when you finally conquer a boss after hours of practice. The Switch port holds up surprisingly well. Sure, it's not as sharp as on other systems, but it's smooth and totally playable handheld. And honestly, few games give you the same rush of triumph. Every shortcut unlocked, every bonfire found, feels like a personal victory lap. Sometimes an indie comes along and just nails the classic JRPG feeling. Chained Echoes feels like it fell out of the SNES golden age, but with all the modern polish you'd want. You've got a sprawling fantasy world, airships, turn-based battles with a clever overdrive meter, stay in the sweet spot for boosted damage and lower MP cost, and even customizable mechs. The writing's surprisingly sharp too, touching, funny, and darker than you might expect. It's the kind of RPG you pick up thinking, I'll dabble, and then suddenly it's 2 AM and you're humming the soundtrack while planning your next skill upgrades. Yes, golf, but trust me, Golf Story is secretly one of the most charming RPGs on Switch. It's part sports game, part quirky life sim. You play an underdog golfer chasing his dreams across bizarre courses. Haunted ones, disc golf, even playing fetch for a dog. There's leveling, gear upgrades, tons of side quests, and some of the funniest writing on the console. It's cozy, weird, and perfect for quick handheld sessions. And if you loved it, the sequel Sports Story adds more activities. But honestly, the original still has that special indie magic. Few RPGs feel as magical as Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch. It's a gorgeous mix of Studio Ghibli art style and classic JRPG adventuring. You play Oliver, a boy traveling to a whimsical parallel world to save his mom, with the help of a sassy little fairy named Drippy, who steals the show. The combat blends real-time movement with creature catching, sort of Pokémon meets action RPG, and the world is just bursting with charm. Playing this on Switch feels like curling up with a warm animated movie, except that animated movie secretly wants to wreck your emotions. If you want pure classic JRPG joy, Dragon Quest XI's is the gold standard. It's bright, adventurous, and feels like stepping into a beautifully animated fairy tale. You play as the Luminary, a destined hero chased by a king who thinks you're evil. Along the way, you gather a lovable crew, a flamboyant entertainer, a thief with a heart of gold, a sassy mage, and explore a huge, colorful world. The definitive edition adds orchestral music, extra story chapters, and even a full 2D retro mode if you want it to feel like an old-school SNES RPG. It's comfort food in game form, but with some surprisingly emotional moments that might sneak up on you. Yeah, it's Skyrim on Switch. You can play it anywhere now, which is both amazing and slightly dangerous for your free time. If somehow you missed it, this is an open-world fantasy sandbox where you can be whoever you want. Dragon-slaying hero, stealthy assassin, wandering alchemist picking flowers for hours. No judgment. The Switch version even supports motion controls for swinging swords and shooting bows, plus amiibo for random loot, because Nintendo magic. It might not be the prettiest version, but the freedom to shout dragons off cliffs while on the couch or the train? Worth it. Now for some big beast hunting. Monster Hunter Rise takes the series' famously deep action RPG combat and makes it more accessible and faster than ever. You craft weapons and armor from the monsters you defeat, but the real hook is the fights themselves. Every creature is a huge, living puzzle you learn to read and counter. The new wire bug lets you swing and zip around like a ninja, and Palamutes, rideable dog buddies, make exploration way smoother. It's perfect solo or with friends, and the loop of hunt arrow, craft arrow, hunt bigger stuff is dangerously addictive. Plus, you get to pet your dog companion. 10 out of 10. If Breath of the Wild blew the doors off open-world design, Tears of the Kingdom kicked them into orbit. It takes that same freedom and piles on even more creativity with Fuse, build ridiculous weapons and contraptions, Ultra Hand, glue anything to anything, and a whole new layer of floating sky islands above Hyrule. What's amazing is how personal the adventures feel. Some players build giant mechs, others invent flying death machines, and some glue a rock to a stick and call it a day. The shrines are clever, the world is dense with secrets, and it's a true sandbox for chaotic creativity. If you thought Breath of the Wild already gave you endless freedom, this one hands you the keys to an engineering degree. Before Rise streamlined things, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate was the ultimate celebration of the series' classic era. It's huge. Dozens of monsters, tons of gear sets, and crazy hunter arts that let you style on beasts in flashy ways. It's harder to jump into than Rise, but if you love deep builds and want to see the full legacy of Monster Hunter's big hunts, this is the one. Also, the monster roster is enormous. It's basically a best of album for longtime fans. Just be warned. The learning curve is steeper, but once it clicks, it's insanely rewarding. Sometimes you just want to smash demons and watch loot explode. Diablo 3 Eternal Collection is still one of the best action RPGs for pure, satisfying grind. Pick a class, barbarian, wizard, necromancer, whatever. Dive into dungeons and watch the screen fill with colorful chaos and shiny gear drops. The Switch version runs super smooth, supports online or couch co-op, and even has a Zelda crossover. You can literally get a Ganondorf armor set. It's the perfect game to play in bursts or lose an entire night to, always chasing that next legendary drop. Sometimes the smallest, strangest game hits the hardest. Undertale looks simple, but it's one of the smartest, funniest, and most surprising RPGs you'll ever play. You're a kid who's fallen into the underground, a world of weird monsters, but instead of just fighting, you can talk, joke, flirt, pet, or otherwise outsmart your enemies. Choices really matter. You can finish the game without hurting anyone, or not. And the game remembers. It's short, it's quirky, and it will probably make you laugh, then cry, then wonder why you got so attached to a skeleton who loves bad puns. If you love deep tabletop-style RPGs, Divinity Original Sin 2 is a dream. It's a fully open-ended fantasy adventure where you can play solo or in co-op, and literally everything is interactive. Set barrels on fire, electrify puddles, talk to animals if you took the right skill. The writing's sharp, the combat is turn-based with crazy elemental combos, and the freedom is wild. Steal anything, kill anyone, if you can, solve problems in 10 different ways. It's basically playing Dungeons & Dragons without needing a dungeon master, and the Switch version supports cross-save with PC if you want to bounce between platforms. Dark, stylish, and unapologetically challenging, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is perfect if you want an RPG that doesn't hold your hand. You're a student who fuses with a mysterious being and gets dropped into a ruined Tokyo swarming with demons. Combat is turn-based but super strategic. Exploit weaknesses to earn extra turns, or risk getting wrecked if the enemy hits yours. Collect and fuse demons Pokémon style, but with way darker, cooler vibes. The Vengeance Edition is an upgraded re-release with a whole new storyline and quality of life tweaks, so if you skipped the first release, this is the definitive way to play.
Prove you can fight? You think you can just fly in and be a hero?
If you loved Persona 5 but want something a little more small-town cozy, Persona 4 Golden is the way to go. You're a city kid spending a year in rural Inaba, where a string of murders and a mysterious TV world pull you and your new friends into a supernatural mystery. It's got the same mix of turn-based dungeon crawling and life sim as P5, but the vibe is more nostalgic and heartwarming. Hanging out with your quirky crew, shout out to Nanako, best little sister in gaming, is half the fun. Golden is the definitive version with extra social links, new events, and more endings. It's a perfect mix of murder mystery and friendship simulator. Let's end with pure joy. Super Mario RPG, originally an SNES classic, is back with a gorgeous full remake that keeps all its charm. It's a delightful mashup of Mario platforming humor and turn-based RPG goodness, with timed hits, quirky enemies, and a surprisingly heartfelt story. The remake nails the look, lush 3D visuals that feel like a toy diorama, and keeps the combat snappy and approachable. Plus, the party lineup, Mario, Bowser, Peach, and original characters like Geno and Mallow, still feels unique decades later. It's cozy, it's funny, and it's one of the easiest RPGs to recommend if you're new to the genre, or just want a hit of Nintendo nostalgia done right. That's a whole lot of amazing RPG world waiting on your Switch. Big adventures, clever tactics, cozy stories. Whatever you're into, it's here. Which one's calling your name? Drop it in the comments, and if you love finding great games like these, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next list.